Hi, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I'm excited to welcome you here for Fireside with Fritz, a special edition of Northern Now, which is a digital event series presented by Alumni Relations for alumni and friends to stay connected with the university. My name is Kylie Bunting. I'm the Digital Engagement Architect for Alumni Relations here at NMU, and I'm so glad that you have joined us for tonight's conversation. So a couple logistics before we get started. We are unable to see and hear you in this webinar format, but we certainly still want to hear from you. So I will be monitoring the Q&A section. So if you have any questions, please use that Q&A function to share any questions that you have for President Erickson, and we will get to those after he gives you a little update. We also have some questions that you submitted during registration, so we'll be touching on those as well. Some upcoming events to talk about. We have a couple more Northern Nows for May and June. May 26th, this has been a topic that people have been asking us to do, and we're finally doing it. So UP history. We have a couple of NMU alumni and local historians who are going to take us back through time a little bit. It's going to be a great presentation, so I hope you can join us for that. And then to close out our Northern Now for the summer, we are doing a cooking segment with NMU's executive chef Alden Griffiths, and she's going to do a little summer send-off cooking segment, sharing some of her favorite summer recipes and getting us ready for the warm weather, hopefully. So you can learn more at nmu.edu/alumni/events. You can register for these events there, and you will also receive a follow-up email from me tomorrow that will include these links too. And then, of course, follow us, keep in touch, follow us on social media, and always feel free to email us at alumni@nmu.edu at any point. And now I would like to welcome a 2002 graduate and NMU Alumni Association Board of Directors, President Jan Hoppola. Welcome, Jan.
Thanks, Kylie. Good evening and welcome to our alumni and members of the NMU community joining us tonight. It's a great privilege to be welcoming you to this event this evening, and it's great to see so many people joining us from across the country. I'd also like to give a very special welcome to our new graduates who are joining with us. Welcome, class of 2021, to the NMU alumni family. And remember, your Wildcat community is your biggest resource. Stay tuned for the launch of our alumni platform, Wildcats Connect, which should be available to all of you very soon. You'll be able to share information, ask and offer advice, build relationships, and more. We will be sharing a link in the chat. And now I'm happy to welcome President Fritz Erickson to share a campus update. Remember to drop your questions in the chat, and welcome President Erickson.
Thanks so much, Jan. Really appreciate it, and I certainly do appreciate all of the terrific work that the Alumni Association does and the connections that we have with so many alumni. The other day, my wife and I were talking about all the things we really missed over the last almost year and a half. And, you know, we missed football games and hockey games and live commencements and all those things. But we agreed that the one thing we missed probably the most was being able to travel around and see people and listen to the stories of alums, because those stories are just incredible. And I love sharing them with our students. They're inspiring and they're engaging. And so for all of our alums, I really appreciate all of that. And in the coming months, I look forward to being able to get out and take advantage of being fully vaccinated and seeing people again. It's I think that's going to be an exciting time. I thought I'd start tonight with just a bit of a COVID-related update. And, you know, as we all know, college is a learning experience, and COVID-19 has sure provided a learning experience for everyone at Northern, and probably most of all me. You know, our terrific leadership team managed to work through a crisis, work for months on it, make changes, be adaptive and flexible. Our faculty and staff have done a truly outstanding job keeping learning going during very difficult situations. I had the opportunity to go teach a class, how so many of our faculty were teaching, where I taught half a class face-to-face, and then the other half was sitting on a computer screen in front of me and via Zoom. And it was exhausting to try and figure out how to make that work. So, you know, the fact that our faculty did such a great job with that, and our staff did an extraordinary job keeping our campus safe and engaged and so forth, so much so that other than a very brief period of time where the governor and the health department mandated that we actually close up classes, we stayed open with the vast majority of our classes being offered in some form of face-to-face. Our dorms were full. We kept working forward. And I'd also like to give a huge shout out to our students. Our students were what, excuse me, made this year and a half so successful. Their perseverance, their dedication, and they still found ways to connect with one another. I ran into a couple of students over at the new Wildcat Den. Just happened to stand there and chat a little bit. And I asked them how they were able to maintain those connections. And it was, they just adapted. And I was so incredibly pleased and proud with the way that they worked. Of course, we learned that having really good technology is a real helpful thing. You know, the fact that, you know, since the 90s, we've been providing all of our students with laptops. Boy, you couldn't have asked for a better setup than rolling into a pandemic where all of our students had laptops and software. And, you know, we made the transition from to remote learning last year ago, March. And we did it in 2 days plus a weekend. That's because we had that access to all those computers. And so I always think fondly of my predecessor, Judy Bailey, who had clearly the foresight to really work on providing that. And of course, the Educational Access Network, formerly WIMAX, has been just an extraordinary tool for us. And then not only for us, but for thousands of families across the Upper Peninsula of Michigan who would not have had access to high-speed internet during the pandemic. That happened because our incredibly clever and talented team of IT folks were able to pull off how we could take what we do so well and provide it across 26,000 square miles of the Upper Peninsula. A truly remarkable accomplishment. And then, you know, we learned that we couldn't deal with a pandemic alone. We had to have such important partners. And I have to give a real shout out to our friends at the Marquette County Health Department, who have been terrific partners in terms of addressing and dealing with a pandemic, and still continue to do that. As you may know, we opened up the new Northern Center for the health department to use as the spot to vaccinate the entire county. And we've had thousands of folks come through there, and people who had never been on our campus before come to our campus and get to see the new Northern Center and, you know, be treated with the Northern hospitality that we all know and love. And in fact, I was talking with some folks this morning who were just raving about how we did that in partnership with the health department, and even provided food for everybody. I mean, you know, you're not going to invite people to your home unless you offer them a little something to eat. And so the fact that our staff was able to do all of that. And I think what's made all of it possible, if you're to kind of boil it down to one word, you'd say nimble. We've used the nimbleness that is that is the tradition of Northern. And that's helped us immensely, as well as our true commitment to helping out one another. And with that, we had, I think, 12 different teams that led us through the pandemic, that helped us develop the protocols and implement the protocols and continually monitor and change. And, we wore masks when we needed to wear masks, and we did all the things that were really terrific, and we were vigilant. And as such, I'm not aware of a university in the state that had a lower active positive rate at any point than Northern did. I mean, our numbers were incredibly low. And if you ever want to just go take a look, you can always hop on the nmu.edu dashboard, and you can get a sense of it. And we've still kept up all the testing that we had done. So, it's, all of those things. One of the other things I would say that we learned, and this is particularly important, we learned that our students want to be face-to-face. And that's really the central piece that's guiding us now as we're looking forward to wrapping up this last year and a half of a pandemic. Our students want to be face-to-face. And so we are committed, absolutely committed, to be having everyone back to face-to-face. We're working on the idea of being able to get rid of all the plexiglass and all the signs, and we really think we can be there for the fall semester, and that we can be back to what I think most remember of their college experience as being normal. And I really look forward to that. Lots of activities are being planned. One of the things we're doing this year, I'm really excited about. We had to not do orientation, the traditional 2.5 days of orientation, because of capacity restrictions and so forth. So this year, one of the cool things that Chris Greer, Dean of Students, and her staff are doing is the Northern experience. We're inviting people who are, particularly new students and their families, to just come up, spend a night in the dorms on us, experience being here, eat in the dining hall, and do a plethora of activities we think will be really, really fun for them. Bike riding and hiking up Sugarloaf, and they're going to have movie nights, and they're going to do all kinds of things. Even though we can't do the formal sort of big orientation, the idea of being able to help folks experience Northern, I think, is going to be, really an important part of it. One of the things we're also working really hard right now on is vaccinations. We're hoping that our faculty, staff, and students will all contribute to the well-being of all of us by getting vaccinated. We make it really easy to get vaccinated, and we're really pressing forward on doing a whole series of things to encourage that. And we're asking folks to submit their vaccination cards so that we can have a count on, what percentage that we have. And if we can get to that number that the state has come out with of 70%, that'll help us immensely. So if you're involved with us at all, if you are a student, if you're coming in, get vaccinated and upload your card. I did mine day before yesterday, and I think the whole thing took me all of 90 seconds. And I'm not the most technologically literate person for that. One of the things I always like to update folks on, we get a lot of questions on what our enrollment is looking like. Last year was a bit of a difficult year. What was interesting is we saw a lot of people decide in January to take the semester off. In fact, we were down about 7.2% at that point. But we're expecting those numbers to be coming back. In fact, right now, and although it is early, the reports for the freshman class are looking really, really good. and as good or better than almost any other institution in the state. I mean, we watch all of that very closely, and I'm very encouraged by it. Our friends in enrollment and admissions caution me from being too excited about early numbers. So too bad. I'm still excited about those numbers because I think I'd much rather be in the position we are in right now. So looking really, really forward to new students coming in, and then students that decided for whatever reason to sit out last semester in particular, getting those students back and providing that experience. Also, this time of year is always budget season for us, so we're just in a holding pattern right now. I did give a testimony, my annual testimony to the House Appropriations Subcommittee back in February. We get great response for how we are able to manage our budget and how we're able to keep our tuition is the second lowest in the state. And it's something very important to us because it's one of the many tools of access that I think are really important. So we've also got we're starting to get in the House and Senate Higher Education Appropriations Subcommittees are coming forward. Senate is basically flat. The House is revamping funding formula. I tend to not get too wound up at this point because there's a lot of discussions that have to happen. So some of the areas that we have been able to deal with, though, is housing. So Gavin Leach, our Chief Financial Officer, challenged all of us, the housing staff and everyone else, if we could figure out a way to really limit increases for room and board. And I'm really happy to report that the increase for housing for next year will be zero. In other words, no increase. They found a way to be able to do it, even with increased costs. I mean, if you've been to the grocery store, you know how much food has gone up and everything else. But they've really set this up in such a way that, we think for this year's room and board rate, we'll be able to keep that under real control. And I think that's going to be helpful for our students. Other news out of Lansing on the finance front is, of course, we received $20 million in capital outlay for the renovation of the Jacob Eddy complex. And we're really excited about this. We're working through the processes now of getting everything finalized and so forth, but you'll begin to see soon some real exciting renovations that'll go on during, some during this year and then into next year to really develop the kind of facility that our career and technical programs need and deserve. One of the exciting things about that, by the way, is that it's not enough to just, take a building and make it pretty again or fix the AC or all of those kinds of things. The reality is, what can we do to rethink how we teach career and technical education? And watch, there's some pretty cool and exciting things on the forefront with that. So I think that'll be great fun. Other thing we've spent quite a bit of time doing is trying to figure out what's the best direction for us in a post-pandemic world. So we launched into a strategic planning process that helped us develop a series of initiatives that I think are really important for us and really action-oriented. And so we've got a number of those initiatives that we've taken to our board of trustees. I just want to highlight a couple of them. One is, you can broadly define it as our rural initiative, our commitment to supporting rural communities. And of course, we have that with our EAN internet access. That's one of the many ways. Another way is we're launching the Center for Rural Health. We think we can make some important contributions in supporting health in rural communities. The other thing we're doing and that I'm particularly excited about is what we're calling our SISU Institute, which is all about innovation and promoting innovative ideas and programs and how we operate and so forth. And so as the SISU Center gets up and going, I encourage you to check in and be part of it. It's just really a cool thing. And if you can get, and if you'd like, get your hands and take a look at the rest of our strategic initiatives. A lot of cool things, everything from we're working on a plan to be able to make the collective statement that our goal as a university community will be to reach carbon neutrality by no later than 2050. We haven't made that statement yet, in large part because I didn't want to do it until we had a concrete plan of how we were going to get there. Didn't want to do, it's easy just to say, oh, we'll be, carbon neutral by 2050. And, while I would very much like to be around and still doing this 30 years from now, I'm thinking it might not happen. So I want to make sure if we're making the commitment that this is something that we have a clear strategic roadmap to do. A couple other things that are going on. One is our Provost, Carrie Schuling, is stepping down come January. We've got a couple of really cool projects that we're going to have her work on for 1 year following that, and then her plans on retiring. I think the thing for Carrie, she would tell you, the draw of grandchildren is pretty strong right now. And so we understand it. We're deeply appreciative of everything that Carrie has done for the university, for the community, and most certainly for our faculty, staff, and students. So we're launching into the search for a new provost. Dean Carol Johnson out of the College of Business is chairing that. They've got 25 members, campus community, students, broad set of volunteers that are going to serve on that. Really important selection. So I often think of the provost as really the most critical position that we have on campus and among the most demanding jobs that we have. I'm a former provost, and I can attest that my life got infinitely easier when I stepped out of being a provost to become a university president. I finish up, I can't help but finishing up with a few shout outs about athletics. Even in the midst of COVID, we had remarkable successes with athletics this year, and some real shout outs go. Certainly right at the top of that list is what happened with our volleyball team. Our volleyball team came in, sort of picked middle to the bottom of the conference, and we won the conference. We won the regular season, 15-2, and then went down to Saginaw and won the conference tournament. It was just terrific athletes, terrific students that make up that team. Mike Lozier, our coach, did a phenomenal job. And the thing that amazes me the most is I think we're only graduating 2 seniors. We have a lot of freshmen and sophomores on that team. And if you didn't know this, the NCAA gave all universities a free year of eligibility. So instead of having 4 years of eligibility, a student can, if they so choose, and and it works out with the coach, they can have 5 years of eligibility. Now, as excited as I am about that, I really do hope our students graduate in 4 years, because that's really the priority. The athletics is terrific, and we're as big a fans as anyone. But we want these incredible athletes who are even more incredible students to be able to work through and graduate. Hockey had a bit of a rough start. They got caught in sort of the no man's land of COVID. They had some outbreaks and had injuries. It's just kind of one of those years. But nevertheless, they ended up making it to the championship game for the WCHA. Which is, as you may know, the last season we have in the WCHA. Our hockey team is moving to a new conference, the CCHA, And I was on a call with all the presidents today, really excited about the new conference. 7 of the teams from the WCHA make up that conference, plus the addition of St. Thomas University and St. Paul is going to be on the make up the conference. Really excited about this. We see some real significant investments. Nordic ski team, what can you say about Sten and his team year after year after year? They're among the best teams, if not the best team in the country. And for the 15th consecutive year for men and the 8th straight year for women, we won the NCAA championship regional titles. Terrific year for them. The sad news, of course, is that our good friend and longtime coach Sten Feldheim has announced his retirement after 35 years. And I'd like to say he'll be greatly missed, but we know Sten's going to hang out an awful lot and be, he's going to end up, he won't be able to stay away. So we'll have a new coach and so forth, but he'll be such an incredible resource for us. But we congratulate Stan on truly an extraordinary career. We've got a search committee working now to fill that. We had our national training site wrestlers have done extremely well and competed extremely well in the senior world championships and at the U.S. Olympic trials. Unfortunately, Jesse Porter, who won the 77 kilogram weight class, will not be competing in the summer games because the U.S. did not qualify that weight for the games. And I never quite understand how those things work. Soccer was a terrific year. We had Carolyn Holonen was named the Women's Soccer GLIAC Offensive Player of the Year. Wonderful change with that. Carl Els, a terrific young woman, finished in the top 20 in the NCAA regionals. I mean, the list goes on and on. Lacrosse did incredibly well. And the last thing I would say about sports, and I never thought that I would be saying this about sports, but I've become a real fan already, and that is our esports team. And went over and had a chance to sit and watch the team play, and they had an amazing first year. And we look forward to that sport continuing to develop and grow. And then finally, and I'm personally just really excited about that, next year we will have the inaugural season of our women's NCAA wrestling team. First in the state, but we know we won't be the last. So I can go on and on and on, but Robin will give me and Kylie will give me the hook. So I'm more than happy to answer any questions or take any comments that you might have.
Thank you. Wow, a lot of amazing things going on. We had a couple questions come in at registration and also some coming in live. So I will start asking you some of those. Not having been to campus in many years, I worry that you're not preserving the wonderful old buildings on campus. I heard that K Hall is gone. What about my old dorm, Spooner Hall? I know it is too costly to preserve these buildings, but I hope there's some way you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. I love the question. Spooner Hall is still there. And if you'd like to come up, we'll figure out which room was yours and we'll get you in there. And so we're thinking about doing a few things differently with Spooner Hall this year. But it's an important part of the campus at this point. As we move forward in the future, I don't know what will happen with Spooner. I'm a big fan of keeping buildings around. The one building that we've been able to hold on to is Lee Hall, and it's sitting empty. And I'm trying not to grow too much penicillin in there because there's any number of issues. But we're committed to trying to find a way to make sure that Lee Hall can come back to life, because I think that is really important. to maintain that. And by the way, it's one of the reasons as we've built new buildings, we've really kept an eye on buildings that will stand that test of time for this generation of students. So when we built the new residence halls, the Woods, one of the things that we really insisted on was building the lodge in front of it. One, because it's such a great gathering place. I often refer to it as the university's family room, but it is also a place that 75 years, 100 years, this place was built to stand the test of time, both the design and the build, because while we've lost some classic buildings, and if I could ever figure out how to build a new K Hall, with that look and feel, I would do that. But every time I raise that issue, the facilities, run out of the room screaming that they won't let me do that quite yet. But it would be so cool to do that.
Great, thank you. As a May 2020 graduate, our last semester was cut short by COVID. There were originally talks of having an in-person graduation ceremony, but those seem to have subsided. Will there be an in-person graduation for the 2020 graduates at all?
The answer is yes. We thought we would be able to incorporate this spring, the May 2021, and have a really big one all together. But unfortunately, with the restrictions wouldn't allow us, we had to do a virtual commencement with this. And while it was okay, and we did learn some things. I mean, one of the things we learned was, well, we can't have it face to face, but we could open the stage up for a couple of days ahead of time. We put the stage up in the dome, and then let all the graduates and their families come and sit on the stage and take pictures and so forth. I spent several hours over there greeting folks that way. It was great fun. Any graduate who was not able to go through a face-to-face commencement is welcome to come to any commencement they would like to. So if you want to come back, I'm pretty sure the odds are in our favor that come December, we're going to be back in there doing a face-to-face one. And certainly next May of 22, we'll be doing it. So please come back. We would be delighted to not only have you, but to truly recognize you.
Great. This one's more of a comment, but perhaps you have some follow-up comments to it as well. Just a quick thank you for always honoring the Michigan Indian tuition waiver and the outreach to the Keweenaw Bay Tribal College for pass-through funding, also for continuously enhancing the Native students programming over the years. I know Native American Studies has been a focus, so I didn't know if there's anything you want to comment on that one.
Yeah, and I very much appreciate that, those partnerships. Particularly with the community college, it's a pretty easy thing for us to do the flow through on funding. I mean, that's just, sort of a technical thing that, is able to help them a little bit. But, I'm looking forward to more opportunities of collaboration and connecting with one another. I think it's really important for us. And certainly, I'm a huge fan of the work that the Native American Studies program does, and the work of the Native American Student Association. Sometimes they get overlooked, but they do incredible work. And we're instrumental in some fundamental changes on our campus. Last fall, our board passed Indigenous Peoples Day on the first Monday of October. And this was really driven in large part by the Native American Student Association with the support of the faculty and staff and so forth. And I think it was a wonderful accomplishment for us as a university.
Great. Next question. Many senior citizens want to continue to learn. Does NMU have summer programs that provide classes to senior citizen alumni who want to take classes? or be involved in the hospitality at NMU?
We love to have senior citizens on campus. This year, of course, we put real restrictions on visitors and so forth. So this year was, particularly difficult. And this summer, we almost have no face-to-face classes. Most of the stuff we're doing this summer is online, with the exception of a few laboratories that needed that equipment and so forth. But the answer is, we love to have seniors. We provide the senior discount. I think it's 62 and over. You don't have to pay any tuition. You just sign up for a class and take it. And we think it's a great thing. It adds a vitality and an interest level. I've talked to a lot of faculty that just really enjoy having seniors come back and be part of a class, and the students, to a person that I've met, just think it's terrific because they get a different perspective than students their own age. So really encourage people to do that, and we'll continue to support seniors in taking classes on our campus. By the way, one of the challenges we have is that we're a little bit too quiet in the summer. And so we've challenged ourselves to really come up with ways in which we can think about how we make our campus much more vital and alive in the summer. And I'm a big fan of a whole range of programming where people can stay in our dorms and use our facilities and engage in a lot of learning in a lot of different ways. So we're in the process of hiring someone whose job it is to try and put all of this together, expand our conference presence. So keep an eye on what's coming in the not too distant future.
Great. Also, I want to mention too, I actually just got done working with continuing education and workforce development on a newsletter that went to all alumni about some of these continuing education opportunities. And they just launched an online course platform too. So I'll drop that link in the chat. And right now, all alumni can use a special code, a discount code as well too for those. So that's always an opportunity. That's not on campus, it's online, but still worth mentioning. So I'll put that in the chat in a few minutes too, in case that's anything that you all want to check out. Jumping over to our Cybersecurity Institute, Steve Nystrom has a question here. I'll send you this full, he has a little bit of information leading up to this, but the question is, where are we in the move with the Upper Peninsula Cybersecurity Institute? Cybersecurity has been in the news lately, so your vision and decision to proceed with the center stand-up was critical. Any updates on this?
I don't have anything real direct right now about it. Our commitment to the Institute and growing our cybersecurity programs, and I think it's important to understand, we've taken a multi-phased approach to cybersecurity. The future looks incredibly bright for that. Look forward to continuing to grow and develop the program. Cybersecurity is an absolutely critical thing, and there's so many interesting careers that come out of it. Sometimes we get sort of, it's easy to think, well, cybersecurity, they do this one thing, but that's clearly not the case. The diversity of opportunities for people in cybersecurity. One of the things I would say that I'm really pleased that we're doing is the partnerships and outreach we have with high schools, with the Cybersecurity Institute. We have a number of area high schools that are really engaged with us, and we see that expanding and growing and continuing to make the investments in the kinds of facilities that we need to make sure that program is truly on the cutting edge.
Great. And another update, can you tell us about what is going on in the new College of Graduate Studies?
Everything. Lisa Eckert is doing an incredible job. We've seen such growth in our graduate programs. Lisa Eckert, our relatively new dean, although long time English professor, has done a remarkable job with graduate programs. And we are continuing to press the envelope in developing new programs. Whether it's the master's program in athletic training or the Master of Social Work program, that we launched 2 years ago. And the problem we're having now is it's full. And we're trying to figure out if we can fill it up even more. And what would that take? Well, it's just really been exciting. I have this vision that I'd very much like to start our first PhD program. And while we do have a doctoral program with the Doctor of Nursing Practice, I think it's time for us. And we've been exploring this model of a PhD in rural leadership. And it's a tough thing to figure out how to do, but it's the right thing for us to do. So I see a continued expansion in our graduate programming. I see new opportunities emerging for our students and extensions of existing programs. And not that it's going to be everywhere, and not that we're going to lessen our commitment to our undergraduates. And sometimes people get a little nervous. They say, well, if you're going to do these, hoity-toity PhD programs, you're somehow going to lose the focus on the undergrads. We cannot do, and we will not do graduate programs at the expense of our undergraduate programs. That would be a terrible mistake. And frankly, I've seen other institutions that do that. But, we can do both. This is an amazing university with amazing faculty, and there's some real opportunities here.
Great, that's exciting. Question, during our last meeting, you talked about a future ice skating river pond on campus. Is that still in the plans?
So, sometimes reality strikes. I thought we were gonna do this, but so I'm not giving up yet. I thought we had the right spot for it, but then, the topographical maps didn't quite work as we had hoped that they would, but I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up quite yet. I think there are ways that we can do some things like that. So I've got a couple of folks that are equally passionate about doing this, because I think it would be such a cool thing. Come and skate the river and do that. So we need to do unique things like that. We just need to do those things. So, I kind of got squashed back a little bit, but, persistence, as a very close friend of mine once said, low pressure applied steady over time always wins. So I'm working on it.
There you go. Persistence, also known as SISU, right? So
as SISU, absolutely.
With all the discussion of the potential Michigan launch initiative, is NMU considering rocket-related programs in the near future?
We haven't had many discussions yet about that. I think in large part because we're just not quite clear about where that potential launch initiative might end up. I mean, there are different perspectives on it. Some people say it's going to happen. Some people say it's not going to happen. I've had a few discussions, here and there about it. I think there are some opportunities. The good news is we have a very, very good friend that, when the time is right, I may end up calling him at NASA and saying, what do you think we should do? So, we're not gonna, if that comes to pass, we're not gonna let an opportunity pass us by.
Great. Any last minute questions for President Erickson out there? Feel free to send those in the Q&A. While I give you one more minute to do that, we have a really nice shout out that I'll read. We might as well end on a high note as well. So Jamie Lippert says, thank you, President Erickson, for the courage and leadership through these challenging times. She also wants to give some shout outs to Kat Hardenberg and the whole housing team for doing what they can do to foster the community. Also to Jerry Daniels and the admissions team for continuing those efforts with recruitment, which we've seen to be very successful. Rachel Harris and the Center for Student Enrichment team as well. And then she has a shout out to the Quiz Bowl team and Professor Joy for a great season.
Absolutely. Michael does a great job with the Quiz Bowl, and, Rachel and her team on student enrichment. It's just wonderful. I mean, I was over with them when they were the ones that were hosting the access to the stage, and got to hang out with those folks. They're just amazing. And we're finding all kinds of things. So I couldn't agree. And the work that housing does, because I would go over and walk through the woods and through the other places. Everyone was doing all the right things and doing it, I think, with a smile on their face, but I couldn't see it because everyone had masks on. But, finding ways to be successful and talking with so many new graduates about how the year went. So that's good. And then, of course, the most exciting, someone said this to me. They said, the most exciting news on campus is we got our liquor license and we're now serving beer at the Wildcat Den. So, if you make it to campus and, need someone over to, sit and have a beverage with, give me a call.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that they have Michigan beer on tap too.
That was an important part of this. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
You wouldn't believe how much work it took to get that.
I know.
We actually had to run legislation. I mean, a bill had to go through the House, the Senate, and signed by the governor. So
well, it's well worth it then, right?
We did that because we have students that are also a little bit older and they wanted a social place on campus. And so we thought, well, this could work very well if they want to be able to sit. And I've also talked to a number of faculty who thought this was a great place now for them to gather. So the Wildcat Den will be a special place.
Yes, and employees like me whose office is just right down the hall. It's just way too convenient. One more question did come in. Any talk of building any on-campus apartments?
Boy, there is. And I very much would like to build a couple of things. We were really successful with the Woods in a public-private partnership. So we're talking with our partner about what if we tore down all the Center Street and Lincoln Street apartments and really built some quality places. Is that doable and affordable? The other thing that I'm quite interested in doing, as many know, housing is an enormous problem in Marquette. And we should, as a university, help with that problem. And so maybe there's an opportunity to develop a different kind of housing for, say, new faculty and staff that are coming in. Exploring different kinds of models with that. So the answer is we're really having a lot of discussions about, gee, what could we do? And, ask me next year and maybe I'll have a little bit more substance to the answer, but it's something I think we should do.
Great. One more, Steve Nystrom just says, thank you again for the cybersecurity programs. And those are all the questions. So thank you so much for joining us and being here, sharing great updates. There's, a lot of amazing things happening on campus. And I know our alumni are appreciative too.
Well, I'm so impressed with our alumni, and I look so forward to getting to see people face to face and hearing folks regale of their days at Northern. My wife and I just love that. So we'll be
Yes,
back at it soon.
we will. We're looking forward to it as well. Thank you very much. I am going to share our T-shirt winners here that we chose during the break. Let's see. So we've got 5 T-shirt winners, all from the 60s and 70s. I don't know what was going on with that wheel, but those are our winners. So we have John Beauchamp, class of 72, Robert Lafna, class of 69, Larry Lane, class of 63, Thomas Stotts, class of 78, and David Boyd, class of 63. And I will be emailing all of you tomorrow to follow up on this, and we'll send you these really awesome alumni T-shirts here. And just a couple quick reminders, make sure you stay connected with us. We have a couple more upcoming events featuring our alumni. May 26th, UP History, and a cooking segment with Chef Alden Griffiths, who's NMU's executive chef and also an NMU alum, on June 9th. So be sure to check out our website and get registered for those. We will also be sending you a quick survey tomorrow. So please, if you have a moment to take your time and give us some feedback, let us know if there's anything that you would like to hear from us about, topics of interest on your end as well. And as always, keep in touch on social media. And thank you again. Thanks, President Erickson. And thank you to all the alumni who joined us this evening.